more people I meet, the more I love my dog.
Yes. Okay, sorry, I got us off track. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So you're starting a new company now, since you've left Oracle. What is it?
Well, it's not Snowflake. Just so everybody know, I'm not working for Snowflake. So,
Okay.
I got the shirt at a meetup when I went and hung out with Danny and Stuart for a night.
Okay.
But no, I started my own consulting company. It's called Rheodata.
Mm-hmm.
RHEO data. And it's basically, Rheo is actually, if you look it up in dictionary.com, it's a Greek word or a Greek hyphenated word that means flow or current.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're doing a lot of emphasis is on moving your data from on-premises into cloud platforms and, moving through those data warehouses and all those things that which are really people are more interested in today. I think data movement's going to be a big issue in the next 5 to 10 years. Because
also secure data movement.
Correct. Oracle and other smaller companies like HVR and are all making strides into moving data securely.
Right.
And so I look at it from a standpoint of how do we move data from point A to point B in large quantities in the smallest amount of time. And
right.
that's what I typically focus on. I foresee that in the near future, everybody's heating up about the cloud wars right now. Everybody's trying to negotiate between AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle, and some smaller guys. I just look at it with the avenue of like, great, wonderful. Everybody can have their own flavor, but at some point, I think it's going to turn into like telcos, where everybody starts seeing vendor lock-in. You start getting a certain rate, and then they start upcharging on different things, and then eventually you're going to be tied down to how do I move that data from AWS to Azure in the smallest amount of time? And
right.
How do I do that over a weekend or over a week or something like that? And so how do you effectively do that and make that realistic? And so that's what I'm focused in on. And I'm still also doing a lot of database consulting, infrastructure work, building out the infrastructure with Terraform, Ansible, and all the automation frameworks.
Okay.
So that's just pretty much what Rheodata is doing.
Okay.
We haven't made a big push to publicly say, here we are, because I'm kind of keeping it. This is actually probably the first time I'm actually talking about it out in the public forum. But it's something that I've been, I've talked to Danny Bryan, I've talked to Stuart Bryson about it a couple of times. It's just something over the last couple of years, just something I've been kind of mulling over. It's just where I really want to go, what I want to do. And I think I left Oracle on good terms. I love everybody at Oracle. They were really great to me. It's just, I think with the Oracle trying to make that shift, being more of a cloud provider and stuff, there was some redundancy put in place in areas. And so I have no hard feelings at Oracle, but I was rifted. So just kind of like, was it meant to be for me to go in this direction? We'll see. I decided to take the leap of faith and go out.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to, an opportunity presents itself and you have to take it.
Yeah, well, and I think we talked one time before, and with this rift happening with getting me out of Oracle, it was kind of more of, I've had so many people come to me and just say, hey, you really should do this. You really should look at doing this. And, it took me probably about 3 weeks just to get my head in place and articulate, like, how do I fund this? How do I get things moving? How do I stand the website up? How do I get all these little pieces that has to go what goes into the business world today?
Right.
And so I took time to do that. And so it's been I was rifted back in February, and now it's mid-April. So it's been a good 2.5 months of just kind of building and just massaging this process through. And so we're getting close to start pushing some stuff out, hopefully later this week or early next week.
All right, excellent. So now you served in the military, and you went from high school to the military to college?
Oh, well, kind of.
Or did you go from high school to college to the military? I can't remember.
Well, I was a military brat, so military was ingrained in me from birth, basically.
Okay.
When you
Same
grow
here.
up, yeah, when you grow up with your dad being a first sergeant in the MP Corps when he retired, and your mother being a chief warrant officer in the Personnel Corps, you're kind of just like, okay, here you go.
Your career path has been selected for you.
Well, kind of. And what was really funny is that where my parents retired at was Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay.
And my dad was one of the first sergeants over the training battalions at Fort McClellan, because the MP school did OSET, one-stop training, at Fort McClellan. And so now, if you ever meet my dad, if anybody ever meets my dad, you will go, Bobby looks just like his dad. People say my kids look like me all the time, so it's just a genetic thing. But my dad, when I decided to go in, I initially went in. I went from high school to college first at Jack State in Alabama. And then probably about first semester there, I was like, I need college money. So I went and talked to a National Guard recruiter. And he was like, I don't have anything for you. And so I was like, okay, well, when you do, let me know. Well, my dad at the time was like, well, just go in the MP Corps. You'll do basic training at AIT here at Fort McClellan. And I looked at him going, there's no way in hell I'm going to the MP Corps. You and me look too much alike, and I don't know who you pissed off. So I was like, I love you, Dad, but not going into law enforcement. But the law enforcement thing runs through our family quite a bit. My older son wants to be an FBI agent, so he's going to school to do that. And so the National Guard was just kind of a stopgap who just said, hey, we got a programmer job for you. And I said, great. And then about a month later, they changed it to network systems analysts. And I said, okay, great. And then probably the second semester I was in college, I didn't do so well because I was more worried about a lot of people think I don't drink, but I actually do drink a good bit. And then college kind of ruined it for me because my second semester in college, I lived in the bottom of a bottle. I hate to say that, but it's really the reason why I don't drink as much as I do, or as most people do. But after that, my dad's people don't understand that the Army has, or most military branches has, the recruiters have a requirement to call you up to 3 years after high school.
Right.
And so every time I would always intercept the phone call from these recruiters and say, nope, I'm already in the National Guard, I'm good, and keep going. Well, my dad got the phone call one day, and I come home and it was like, you're going to active duty. I was like, no, I'm not, I'm in college. And he was like, no, you're going to active duty. And as I mentioned earlier, being a first sergeant, mom being a warrant officer, it was like, there is no room to argue with these people.
No. It was, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And so it was like, go down to the recruiting station and go active duty. It was like, oh, crap. So I went down, and long story short, we went through a couple of processes, went through MEP station, went on active duty. That's when I married. Probably about 6 months after I was on active duty, I got engaged to my wife, and then we got married 6 months later. And so my lovely wife has been with me from day one of my career. She has seen me go through the ups and downs. So to answer your question, I know that's a long way around, but so I really went to college first, and then I went to military, and then I went back to college.
So military, college, military.
Yep.
Civilian. I went high school, military, college. No, my father retired from the Marine Corps as a master sergeant. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and he was offered E9, but he didn't want to move to 29 Palms. So.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Well, I wouldn't want to live at 29 Palms.
Yeah, well, while I was in the service, I made E5 within 3 years.
Okay.
So that's pretty rapid throughout the military branches. And I think 6 months after I made E5, my unit was going, hey, we want you to be an E6. I was like, oh, no. I said, I don't need all the headaches that I already have amplified. And then I was in E5 for about 2 years, and I decided to get out of the military. And when I got out of the military, it was just kind of like, okay, making the transition from military to civilian life was really mind-boggling, because when you've grown up in the military and you've worked in the military and you live the mantra, your mindset is completely different than what it is out here in the civilian world.
Oh yeah. I know.
Yeah, and so some of my career, some of the things I've been very fortunate to where I'm at in my career and being able to push through a lot of things. And I give a lot of that credit to the military aspect of that
Hmm.
mentality of being able to just over, under, around, any which way to get the job done, right?
Right.
But in civilian world, it's not like that, and the politics sometimes trips you up
Oh
because you're
yes.
looking from a military standpoint. You're looking at from I gotta get the job done, and
Hmm.
from the civilian side, they're just like play nice or get out of here.
Yeah. Don't upset the apple cart.
Exactly, and
So
so it's just
you can upset the apple cart, but you have to be mature enough to know when and how much.
yes. And I will say, early in my career, coming out of the military at 25, or actually 2022 through
Hmm.
25, those years, it was like really a lot of growth for me because of that exact reason
Hmm.
of I know how to get this done. I can get it done rapidly, get out of my way, move on and so forth. But it was just the political climate was like, just assure people you can get it done,
Right.
but don't be too pushy. And that's what I didn't understand at that point in time. Over the last decade or so, I've gotten a lot better at that.
It took me a long time because after I got out of the military and started, well, I went to college where I pissed a lot of people off. Then I started my career where I pissed a lot of people off because I was always like focused on the objective, you know.
Yeah.
And it took a few decades, to mellow me out a little bit to actually start thinking about, how my words and actions impact others.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot of that with my boys too.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
I tell my boys all the time. I say, me and your mom are your biggest fans. We
Hmm.
will we will be there to support you 100%. But
Hmm.
nothing comes for free. You have to work.
Yep.
And so, with on a baseball front, a million people knows I do a lot of things with baseball with my boys. But there you go. That I do a lot of things with the boys, but at the same time, I expect them to work and get better at their craft. And
Yes.
that's the same thing I look at in my career is that how do you move the ball forward? You
Hmm.
have to. Nobody's going to hand you an opportunity. You have to go out and make those opportunities.
Oh yeah.
You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
and go make those opportunities. And one of those things that which I looked at was probably about in the early 2010s, 2010, 2011,
Hmm.
2013, or actually 2012, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it was my first time. I don't like crowds. A lot of people think that's really odd, is that I don't like crowds, right?
Hmm.
If you really see me at a conference or you see me hanging out with people, most people I hang out with, I'm in groups of 2 or 3, maybe 4 people.
Okay.
If we get to a group of five, this is just a self-observation myself, but you get to a group of 5, 6, 7 people,
Hmm.
I sit back and watch. I don't interact a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't understand that, but I use conferences to push myself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to find some way to push yourself out of the comfort zones. And so that's the only way you move your career forward.
Well, yeah, and a comfort zone, I've also heard it referred to as a rut. You get into a rut, it's like, I'm comfortable here, I'm comfortable here, I'm comfortable here. And a rut is nothing but a grave with both ends knocked out.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, true.
You start living the same life every single day and you never get uncomfortable. In 1978, I met Admiral Grace Hopper, or it was 78 or 79.
Yeah,
And she was the second person to tell me get comfortable being uncomfortable.
true.
Okay, the first one was my papa, but when my papa said it, I'm like, oh, I'm 18, 17, 18 years old. I'm like, yeah, I know everything.
Well, yeah, I'm dealing with that right now with my oldest son.
It's amazing as we get older how stupid we are.
Yes. Yeah, I try to tell my boys all the time is that, I've been down this path. I'm just letting you know how it's going to turn out. But you can go down it if you want, but it's your choice. But you're absolutely right. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so that's the only way to move the ball forward,
Yeah.
and sometimes people are going to like you. Sometimes people are not going to like you. You're just going to have to figure out the difference between the two. And just keep moving forward, and sometimes movement inside of a career is good.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is that, I have a bunch of friends on LinkedIn. I have a bunch of people I've worked with on LinkedIn. And I was looking at this the other day, and I've got a couple of friends who I worked with back in the early 2000s who are still with the same company 20 something years later.
Right.
And which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. I know people at Oracle who have been there 20 something years. And that's great. If that's your niche and that's where you want to go and that's what you want to keep doing, have at it. For me personally, it was really more of my, going back to my comfort zone conversation there, is that to me, I'm one of these guys who want to fix the problem and move on. Right. So if I see a problem, and I have a solution for it, I want to fix it, move on, make sure everybody's okay, and keep moving. Right. And so there was a period in my career where I would go to a company and as a senior DBA, walk in, start fixing their database problems. And then 6 months later, I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs going, hey, what's going on?
What
else can
now?
I do? Yeah. And so I would just get inherently bored and I start looking around for another job and stuff. And so there was a period, as I mentioned, where probably about 3 years where every 6 months I was moving.
Yeah.
Because it was just really more of me needing to find something new, challenging, and setups. And then my career took the turn towards the consulting side, which boils into the conferences and everything else. And the first consulting company I worked for that gave me a lot of benefit was Bias here in Atlanta. And so that was my early 2010, 2011 timeframe. And they gave me a lot of opportunities and a lot of things to really drill into from a consulting side. And that kept me engaged for almost 3 years. Right. And then it was, wow. And then I, did some conferences, and then I got picked up by another consulting firm that everybody well known, that Incotech, well known, and I love the guys at Incotech. I still love those guys. Still give a lot of those guys credits today about what they've accomplished, where they've gone. Everybody from Kerry Osborne, Martin Painter, Fritz to Martin Bach. Some of the guys that with most people will read books that they've written and interact with them and be starry-eyed with at conferences and everything else. They're a bunch of great guys.
Oh yeah, they are.
Very technical, very outspoken, and great fun to be around, and everything else. And so my career really, if you ask me, from high school to college to the military, that was just the first stage of my career. Yeah. The second stage was really getting into the consulting scene, doing the conferences and learning how that mechanisms works and how those things are built and scaled, and all the very smart people that are in the industry as a whole, and becoming friends with those guys. And so now I kind of look at Rheodata as being the next tier. Right. And stuff. And so but it's really interesting how when you take a step back and look at a career, whether it's yourself or you look at somebody else, you have to go, what were they like when they were 18? Right. What were they like when they came out of high school compared to what they are now today? And everybody's careers takes different paths. Some goes up very rapidly, some goes up very slowly, some goes down very slowly, some goes flatline. Who knows? It's what you make of your career is what you really have to understand. Well, yeah, you're gonna make your career. There's going to be outside forces that you have no control over, but you always have to ask yourself, what do I have control over? And with me, it's constant learning. Correct. And what I'm not going into an office right now. I work quietly.
And it's very relaxing. And then I call people just to make sure they still know I'm still alive, and I check to make sure they're still kicking.
Are you sure that's not becoming older?
What's that you say, Sonny? No, we live in interesting times.
Yeah, we actually do. And, you know, I think if, you know, I know we've talked a lot about careers here. And if I had to advise somebody on what to look at for their career, is that don't take the path that's easy.
Oh, amen.
And stuff, because when you take the path that which is easy, then you're never going to progress, in my opinion. If you know, but you shouldn't necessarily pick the most difficult path either, but you should take the path that which is going to provide some sort of resistance. It's like almost, you know, I'm probably the last person to talk about weightlifting or anything like that here lately, but it's like if you lift weights, what are you doing to your muscles? You're putting them under strain. You're tearing them with the hopes of building them back up and getting bigger. You got to look at your career as the same approach.
Right.
You know, intellectual strength is just as valuable as physical strength.
Well, yeah, a long time ago, I knew everything.
Yeah.
I actually keep a book laying around here. I don't see it right now, that says what I don't know. And as I'm working on something, studying on something, I scribble down, oh, I don't know that. Okay. I need to read up on this. And it reminds me constantly that I don't know everything.
Yeah, well, I think you know, that's when it comes down to, you know, with interviews. I hate interviews. The ones I particularly hate are the people who expect you to know everything.
Yes.
You know, you go into an interview, and they're, you know, whether, especially in the IT field, you know, this is prevalent in the IT field, that you go in and you're talking about, well, let's just say databases, because we're all in the database field here. That we're talking about database, and they're asking you 1,000 different ways to do performance tuning, or you know, build a table or insert a million rows.
Hello.
But it's just, as interviews progress, they try to get harder and harder and harder, and they expect you to know everything. And there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I don't have the answer right now.
I know where to find the answer."
But I know where to find the answer.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many interviews I've won over just based off of the fact of, I can tell you where to find the answer, and I can put it into practice, but I just can't come up with the answer right at this moment. Because I think it shows more of that you might not know everything, but you're willing to be humble enough to actually say it, and then also go and find the answer and come back.
Well, when I interview people, I have my pet questions, but when I'm asking technical questions, they're probably some very obscure things. I'm looking for people to say, I don't know, this is how I would find out. You know, my specialty is security, okay? And I could ask you, you know, tell me 5 ways where data leaks in plain text out of the database. And most people would go, huh? And
I would have to think about it. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but
I could tell you, but each one has different mitigations.
Yeah.
All right. Most people don't know this. You know, how would you find out? Things like that. Or, you know, you ask an obscure question on redo and undo, and most people, it's like, you know, they get them confused. Yeah. So what? I know where to find it in the book.
Yeah.
I know how it works.
Exactly, because you know, it's like some people have asked, you know, it was great being at Oracle because of, you know, a lot of the resources that you had access to there, and there were some questions, some blog posts that I've written on bound recovery, for example, for Golden Gate. It's like, but when you really dig into bound and recovery, it's more about caching.
Yeah.
And how Golden Gate caches stuff into memory and to filter those transactions and stuff. So it's very enlightening when you actually get a chance to understand that mechanism even more in a deeper sense, if you make
Well, yeah.
sense, right? So most people on the outside, if I would ask the questions like what's bound recovery and Golden Gate, some people kind of go just glass-eyed on you, like I don't know. But when you understand, but when you can actually articulate the whole flow of how data goes through, that becomes a little bit of a different story. And then it's like, wow, and if you can find somebody who can architect articulate some of those things, it can be impressive. But at the same time, I think it's more impressive if you can say, I don't know it, but I can go find the answer.
Yeah, to me, that's what impresses me, because
sometimes egos can get a little out of whack.
Well, yeah.
Because Oracle or IT in general is such a big space, right? There's so many companies involved. There's so many startups happening on a regular basis. Like Google just purchased Looker, for example. I know Stuart is big on analytics and he likes Looker, but GCP just purchased them. So there's all these moving parts of the industry that a lot of people don't realize. And so trying to keep up with all of this stuff is hard to do.
It's really darn near impossible. You can keep up with some things, but you can't keep up with everything.
No, so you have to almost pick a niche and go, I'm going down this niche, and then use ancillary products to buffer that.
Right.
And stuff. Right. So know something really good, but understand everything else.
Yeah.
And don't be shy of saying, hey, I need to look that up.
It's
like, my philosophy.
It's like my knowledge of machine learning is about like this, but I know what it is.
Yeah.
And I actually have some good books on it that, I'm going through. But, when you start going into like TensorFlow, I understand it mathematically, but it still kind of, hurts my brain.
Oh, exactly. Because like last night I was looking at the autonomous data warehouse, for example, and then I was playing with machine learning over there, just trying to mess around with it. And I was just, I understand it. I understand what it does, but it's like, am I going to be an expert in it? No. But I do. But fortunately, because where I'm at in my career, I know some people who are experts in it. And so I can call them up and go, or I can hit them up on direct message on Twitter or whatever else and say, hey, I'm having a problem here. Can you help me out? And the community is very good about helping each other out.
Oh yeah, they are.
I can't speak for the other communities like Microsoft and Google and those things, but the Oracle community, everybody, once you understand it and understand how to interact with it, everybody's very helpful.
Yeah.
I've got friends, not only from the Incotech world and the bias world, but I've got in yourself and like Jeff Smith, Maria Colgan, I got Brendan Tinnery, Heli out of Finland, all these people that which, you just see in passing across on Twitter and everything else. But when things get tough, if I don't understand technology, I can call or I can ping somebody and just say, hey, can you explain this to me a little bit easier? And having that network is actually very valuable as well.
Yeah, you got to build that. You got to build that network. And the thing is, a lot of us, we make ourselves available for those questions.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to know anything about replication, I'm going to call you.
I appreciate that.
At the same token, people call me all the time with a security question, and a lot of times it's really obscure. And a lot of times I have to research it.
Yeah. With replication questions I get all the time, someone's asking me, how do you do this? And it's just kind of like, well, I have to think about it, to be honest with you, because I got to think of where things are coming from, where things are going. Are you doing anything in the middle? Hopefully not. And then it's just like, how are you architecting the environment? Replication is pretty simple, but it's at the same time, there's a lot of things involved in it. Configurations and moving DDL, moving DMLs, operational types, character set changes, all these things that are involved. And so, and like you said, if people had a question, that's why I took after, Jeff Smith is actually a great example of community outreach, because if you call him and say, hey, I would like you to review my blog, he'll go out there and look at it and give you some pointers on it. One of the things that he pointed out to me was add in a contact page on your blog so people can send you questions directly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I did that, and I've gotten a few questions coming in directly on Golden Gate topics, and it's like, okay, here you go. And, I take the time to research those and send feedback to people. So that's a great way to interact with the community as well. But it also goes to the extent of that the community that the Orquat community is, we do a lot of things for people without any expectations of getting things back.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, when you do things without the expectation of getting anything back, usually something comes back.
Correct. You pay it forward is the way I look at it.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, I'm on the free version of Zoom, and it's about to cut us off.
Okay. Well, you should have said something. I would have fired mine up and just had a longer version.
Thank you very much. Listen, you have a great time, and I'll send you a copy of this.
All right. I appreciate it, Rob.
All right. Mahalo.
See you later.